Louis? How do we run
question.
a badass BIM meeting? Should we take a look?
Yeah,
So this is how
jump right
Ted
in.
might have done it, yeah?
Yeah, so,
This is-
there's Ted. So Ted does look like he had some success. Let's take a look at what he may have done during his presentation or
Hopefully not
meeting.
breakdanced on the table.
Maybe they were just clapping because he's a good dancer. Who knows?
So Ted needed to understand, or Ted did understand,
Yes.
because his meeting went so well,
Yeah.
that BIM is not part of a day job for the owner, of the owner's day job. And so instead of expecting them to understand what BIM is and how it can benefit them, he provided really clear, rich examples. For example, coordination.
Yeah, he could have brought some coordination examples showing them what it takes, what processes would require. Maybe it's
What the benefits are to them.
Yeah, manpower, time, money, whatever it is. But showing examples of what that might actually take,
As far as
you're on the same page.
Yep, what the scope would be and what
Right.
the output would be. And then 4D phase planning, showing the owner an example from a previous project.
Mm-hmm.
Again, seeing the amount of effort from the scoping and seeing the output is really
And
powerful.
showing them all the benefits of that as well. You know, there's a lot of safety
Yep.
now for phase planning.
Sequencing and safety.
Mm-hmm.
And then quantities, how more accurate quantities might benefit the owner indirectly or directly. Understanding that, being able to tighten the risk and being able to be more sure on the outcomes is very important.
These examples are more for helping them understand what it takes and giving them a little bit of education, not just saying, oh, we could do it all, we can do this, we can do that, but kind of getting into a little bit of the details of what it actually takes to accomplish these BIM uses and allow them to understand that, and it'll make them have a better decision.
And then a couple that might be more applicable for the owner, being able to virtually walk through their building using
most popular now.
different examples and taking that hardware to the meeting so that they can actually experience it has been very powerful and very well received. But understanding what the commitment is, what the scope is required in order to get to that photorealistic.
Yeah, this is a
walkthrough.
really good example, and because as an owner who does not know too much information about BIM and what it might take, they might think that you're doing coordination and would say, well, then let's do AR, VR, or one of these. And they'll jump into the headset and just go, hey, well, why is all the piping magenta? Why is the duct blue? Like, that's not realistic.
Is it really going to be blue in my building?
And that right there is not aligning those expectations. They thought, okay, well, you're already doing it in 3D. Why don't you just slap some material? That we all know that that's not realistic expectations as someone who knows what it takes.
So understanding the finishes and
It's
being
not
able
their
to put
job.
time in
Yeah,
for those.
It's not their everyday job. So again, that's just another example of how connections.
Yep. And then one of the very key ones is required for
Right.
handover at the end of that workflow.
And the
What's
person
important?
you might be talking to in that meeting, as who's speaking on behalf of the client, may not be the person that
Runs and manages the
runs
building
and
afterwards, yeah?
manages the facilities. So, you know, having the right person, again, inside that meeting, bringing in the facilities manager or director, having them come in and say, this is the equipment I need, and this is the information that it takes.
Yep. So Ted also understands that he can be too technical. So
Right.
one of the ways that he is able to really remain out of the weeds
Yeah.
and not into those detailed technical explanations about, let's not start on those, is by using pictures. And a picture, we all know, is 1,000 words. So if Ted can build up that agreement using thousands of pictures, how powerful would that be? And we know firsthand how owners absolutely love being able to truly understand what they're going to get in this way. So visually scoping the project, really, really beneficial when you're sitting down with an owner.
Yeah, it really helps actually look at those and build it because, you know, going through and looking at an Excel spreadsheet or a long list of a Word document, we all know that we're going to zip right through it and say, yep, read it, agreed, let's go.
That was why Frank's guys were
Yeah.
laying asleep on the
He was reading every line item.
showing an Excel spreadsheet with a bunch of numbers. Ted also understands that templates can save a lot of time and reduce risk. So rather than copying and pasting a whole bunch of things that he might not need, he can use templates and be selective.
Yeah, and you know, we speak with a lot of people who are developing those templates because they understand that every project is unique, and bringing in that risk is not really great, not only for the client but for their own company and, you know, liability things that might come up. So these templates, keeping them basic. If you are someone who is developing those templates, think about the non-project specific items, leaving yourself, little red highlights or something that you can come right in and fill in that project information once you've received it. So a lot of that kind of workflow that you put into your templates that you're building alone or with your team could really go a long way.
Yep. Ted also understands that each BIM use can have completely different requirements.
Right.
And so he sees the ability to define information delivery milestones and vary what is required on each milestone.
Yep.
Pretty simple, using that visual
not asking
nature.
for everything, not asking for the entire scope in the design review phase, only asking for certain information in the estimates, and then focusing on the actual coordination elements that will be needed. And along the way, scaling that level of information or level of geometry as it's needed, and not something that's just forced right at the first milestone.
Yep, deciding when and which milestone is required. Ted also understands that aligning expectations is everything. So what is important to the owner? I think Louis just mentioned that as well. In a milestone for delivery, we really want to understand which elements out of the set that we are creating for the project anyway does the owner want, and also what might be required that is not part of the existing scope for project teams.
And this is something we've heard a lot of feedback from our customers and users who are coming back to us and saying that they are now able to make and build a more collaborative scope between the owner because they get them engaged, because they invite them to help create this.
Because they can understand it.
They understand it. They're not getting it lost in the definitions of this LOD or what's required for like they are just keeping it down to the basics.
Yep.
But doing it together, not something that's saying, this is what I propose, or what do you think you should give me a scope? Why don't we sit down, agree on the use?
It takes 45 minutes in a meeting room, and you see the difference between, yes, okay, Frank and Ted, but we have real life people that are also going through this process, and we just a couple of quotes at the end as well. So the principle is really interesting to be able to define this visually, but Ted also understands that it needs to be lean. So lean information requirements and lean workflows can save the owner time and also please the owner enough so that they would want to work with you again. And being able to define project-specific information requirements is part of this. Having a library of all of the information requirements that you might use across all of your projects, but also being able to, for a specific project, just add the ones that you need. Louis and I have personal experience on this where working as an owner, just literally only needing 17 different parameters, different information data types, that was all that was needed for the set of projects. So you didn't need a raft of thousands of information requirements.
Yeah, we originally had a meeting with the facilities owner, the clients, and everyone who was involved, and we agreed that 17 parameters were needed and only for certain equipment. So
not it wasn't 17 on everything either.
Yeah, not on everything.
Very targeted.
So we had a clear list of what was needed, and a clear list of what information was required and by when. So that really helped my team model and provide this information in a timely manner.
Make it, Ted, understanding also that he needed targeted information, became much more achievable. So in that example where we picked 17 different parameters, we're then targeting the assignment to only specific elements that are requiring certain, whether it's an asset for handover or it's an intermediate delivery between team members because somebody needs some type of information. So targeted information requirements rather than broad brush, I need information on everything, is a big time saver, a big way of leaning up the scope. Ted understands quite a lot, doesn't he? Ted also understands.
That is amazing. Where is he?
The agreements must be printed in a contract as well. So being able to instantly, in the meeting that you're in, be able to click print and say, this is my handover documentation, and this is what we have agreed to. These are all of the information requirements that we have agreed to, and it's in a nicely printed and formatted, rapidly created report. And then finally,
collaboration.
Ted understands that we need to be able to achieve BIM compliance. In order to do that, we need to bring everyone along from day one and include those teams in the collaborative environment so that they can agree to, they can help craft, and then we can track and manage and then verify And if you were on earlier, you will have seen the verify. Pretty excited about that. And being able to track what has been verified and visually, before you publish a model for use, a very, very important step in the workflow.
Yeah, I don't know how much I can emphasize this more, but if you've been in a meeting and it could have been 1 hour, 2 hours, and you've gone through all this work, and to not share this information, it just seems like what a waste of time that you had with that client. So really engaging and making sure that the people who are actually doing the work do have access to this information, whether it's a PDF or access to a collaborative platform. It's really important to make sure that the person who's modeling, whether it's an intern, a junior designer, someone who's actually doing that work, has their hands,
the assignments,
on the document, on that information.
Imagine not leaving that meeting with a whole bunch of to-dos and a whole load of tasks and a whole bunch of formatting, reporting, and everything else, and telling the client, I'll get back to you. Imagine being able to, at that meeting, deliver a cohesive agreement based on exactly that 45-minute conversation that you've just had.
Yeah.
The power and the benefit in relationship building that can have. That is why Ted was able to run a badass meeting.
Badass meeting.
Big badass BIM meeting. So a couple of really nice quotes in here. Real life, not Ted, not Frank. Here, Cindy sharing that.
Cindy, if you're watching, hi.
Hi. It's like I feel like I work at Disneyland when I show off Planoly. It's so simple and visual. That's really cool. And we really believe in making it so much easier and more visual, more simple. So we really appreciate comments like that. And then Planoly makes our conversations easier. It makes buy-in easier. It's a great basis of conversation and agreement. So there's real understanding that this conversation between a delivery team and an owner can be facilitated much, much more in a more communicative way, in a visual way, in a way that people can understand, truly understand and agree to. So it's really exciting. You can probably tell that we get pretty excited about that. So in conclusion,
technical BIM jargon helps nobody.
Absolutely.
So, don't get too technical.
Keep it simple.
Keep it simple. Don't throw in abbreviations. Make sure if the client or whoever's in that room, make sure that they understand before you get too technical. Make sure that or you're aware of their level of BIM education or whatnot. So
their savviness, but
yeah,
we don't need to force people to read a dictionary in order to be able to understand. We communicate, and we have done on projects around the world for so long using technical jargon in some cases, but now the teams understand. Everyone understands what a scope is. Let's call it a scope. Let's make it tangible and understandable by all of those people. They can all understand it. And also, the drive of today's webinar has been make it lean. So make sure that you have a lean scope with lean information requirements that can produce jaw-dropping results that can actually be achieved and that will benefit the customer, and that output, the deliverable, when it's gone through that compliance loop, is ready for the customer to use and is going to provide them value. And we all would like to start running those badass BIM meetings. I would love to help. Our team would love to help. And if you would like to learn more about how Planoly can help you, then let us know. We are here and we would love to share more with you.